Hey everybody, I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. It's time to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People. I am back. I am not skipping out on y'all to go camping or go pew-pew or do anything else this weekend. I'm here for you. So awesome. It is Friday, May the 21st, 2021. I want to thank you guys for being here. I know you could be doing anything on a Friday night, but you're here with us, and that's awesome. Speaking of awesome, we got the tactical pickle himself, Calaveras 32 Special, in the house. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, and I'm looking forward to discussing, the Supreme Court decision, and I appreciate the invite.
Hey, no problem. Squib was here earlier. He popped out. I hope that he's not having some sort of diddlies that will prevent him from coming back in, but or, hope he ain't getting in trouble for nothing. So hopefully we'll see him back in later. But if not, cool. Thanks for stopping in for the brief moment you were here, Squibby. What do we got out there in the chat? Only 4 people. Oh, I must have forgotten my deodorant today. We got Gun Little Grandpa out there, Jason Stewart, Pickle pulling double duty, Eolsha. I apologize if I am mispronouncing that one. That's a new name. Welcome to the show. Looks like we got Squibby back. How you doing, irascible one?
Cell phones suck.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they do. The technology is a wonderful thing when it works, and it's horrific when it don't.
One company makes a cell phone that you can't break, but it doesn't work worth a crap. The other one makes one that does everything great, but if you breathe on it, it shatters. Why can't those two dick faces get together and make a good phone?
Because that would make too much sense. I mean, we can't have that. Jason Stewart says, what? No technical difficulties? What did you do with the real budget? Well, give me some time, and I'm sure I can whip some kind of technical diddly up for you. I would prefer not to, but hey, who knows? It might happen. All right. Well, enough. As Conan would say, enough talk. Let's go ahead and get right into the topics, because a little bit of encouraging developments happened on the Supreme Court front this week. The Supreme Court voted 9-0 in what is a surprise move to me, although when you think about it, not really, and I'll explain why. In the Caniglia v. Strom case. For those that don't know, the Caniglia v. Strom case is where the gentleman had his guns seized under the community caretaking concept. And SCOTUS just smacked that thing in the face and knocked it out. Let's go ahead and check out this piece. This is from Ammoland. Community caretaking exception for warrantless searches does not apply to homes. From May 19th, 2021 by Duncan Johnson. The Supreme Court held that the so-called community caretaking exception to the Fourth Amendment, which allows certain warrantless searches of vehicles, does not extend to the home. Earlier this year, Firearms Policy Coalition, Firearms Policy Foundation, and Independence Institute filed a brief in support of the petitioner, authored by Joseph Greenlee, FPC's Director of Constitutional Studies, that extensively detailed the history behind the Constitution's protections against home searches, arguing that American resistance to home invasions ultimately led to the American Revolution, and that extending the community caretaking exception to the home would undermine the constitutional text, the founders' intent, and centuries of tradition. The opinion in Caniglia v. Strom can be found at fpclegal.org. I would encourage you guys to go check out the opinion itself, as I always would. Noting that the court previously recognized a few permissible invasions of the home and its curtilage means its grounds, the lot that it sits on, the court's unanimous opinion, authored by Justice Clarence Thomas, vacated and remanded last year's opinion from the First Circuit, noting that the lower court went beyond anything this court has recognized and that what is reasonable for vehicles is different from what is reasonable for homes. In a concurring opinion, Justice Alito mentioned that today's opinion does not address red flag laws that enable the police to seize guns pursuant to a court order to prevent their use for suicide or the infliction of harm or innocent persons. The justice also noted that provisions of red flag laws may be challenged under the Fourth Amendment, which is a great thing, and those cases may come before us. FPC has supported litigation against red flag orders and will continue to raise challenges against such unconstitutional laws. Today's opinion acknowledges something that America's Constitution and founders were already quite clear about, that the people should be free from unreasonable search and seizure, and that the sanctity of the home is central to American freedom. Explained Adam Kraut, FPC's Senior Director of Legal Operations. As our brief made clear, these so-called community caretaking searches of homes and seizures of firearms are based on the flimsiest of standards without any historical support. They violate the text of the Constitution and its original public meaning and are nothing less than a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. We are delighted that the court affirmed that truth in today's unanimous decision. Individuals that are interested in joining FPC in the fight against tyranny can become a member of the FPC Grassroots Army for just $25 at joinfpc.org. Firearms Policy Coalition and its FPC law team are the nation's next generation advocates leading the Second Amendment litigation and research space. Some FPC legal actions include, and it lists a bunch of them, bunch of stuff from their I Love Me wall. But there you have it, folks. SCOTUS said, no, you can't do this crap. And I'm going to tell you why it went 9-0. Fourth Amendment grounds. I don't necessarily take this as an indication that SCOTUS is going to suddenly shift to be pro 2A. This was a Fourth Amendment case at its heart. It just happened to deal with someone's guns. Again, I will retain an air of cautious optimism, but I'm not going to go so far as to say SCOTUS became pro 2A, because that's not what happened here, folks. It's Fourth Amendment. It's against searches and seizures. Has nothing to do with the Second Amendment in the jurists' minds. I don't know. Am I wrong? Is this a Second Amendment victory or is it a Fourth Amendment victory? You guys tell me out in the chat, in the comments below. If you're listening to this in podcast, log on here to the YouTube channel and leave a comment and let me know. And you guys here in the panel, what do you think? 2A, 4A, or both?
4A for sure. 2A, yes and no. That's where we'll have to see if they actually bother to take up any direct 2A. Because if they continue to refuse, then that kind of tells you that this was not intended to be 2A related as well. But if they do take up a strictly 2A case and rule in favor of it, in favor of the Constitution, then that would suggest that they were thinking that here as well.
Squib, do you have an opinion on the matter?
I'm glad that you stated that in your opinion, this is a Fourth Amendment thing, not a Second Amendment thing, because I think too many people are ready to jump the gun. Plus, it's great for
I see what you
the
did
title
there.
of your well, I mean, it's great for the title and for your meme or your thumbnail or whatever to get people to come to your channel and watch. And I don't mean you, I mean the proverbial you.
Yeah.
The YouTuber, whether they got 1.5 million subs or they got 1 sub. Hey, SCOTUS is 2A, we won a major victory. And then suddenly they got 50,000 views, right? So from that standpoint, I think some people are no better than the fake news. Let's take advantage of what we gain from a 2A standpoint. But yes, I agree with you, and I'm glad that you made it clear that your opinion is that it's a Fourth Amendment thing.
Oh, it absolutely is a Fourth Amendment thing. I think that some of the justices would have ruled in favor on it, ruled the way they did on Second Amendment grounds, but I guarantee it's because it is a Fourth Amendment case. It deals with search and seizure, warrantless search and seizure, which is, remember, folks, the Supreme Court cares about the other amendments, in the Bill of Rights. Not so much the second, that was, and possibly always will be treated as a second-class right. But the rest of them, they protect zealously. And
I think they're really
in comparison to the Second Amendment.
I think the second one is the one they care about the least, or the one that they want to get rid of the most. Yes, I said get rid of. Yeah. I think the First Amendment's right behind it, and then everything else, they can stand there and say, look at us, we're constitutional.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, but the moron in chief, let me be more accurate there. The moron in chief said that no amendment is absolute. So, I mean, you got that going against you.
Sniffy Joe. Yeah. What are they saying out there in the chat? Say, any Buckeye name update? I'm still kicking that around. You know what? I might not even do it. I have to really think about this, because one of the students for those that don't know, last weekend I was at the Tactical Response taking their fighting pistol class. There'll be a video on that coming real soon. Matter of fact, I just got done editing the thing today. Anyhow, one of the other students there was a marketing guy who does marketing for some YouTube stuff. And I asked his advice, and he told me that I don't necessarily need to change the name. I just need to add a tagline or something to define what I mean by budget, to get rid of the stigma of budget equals cheap shit. So I might take that route. We'll see. So if you asked for the update, there's the update. The update is there really is no update. So let's see. Defense Dad asks what's up, and well, you see what's up. Skullduggery and jackassery, just like always. Maku Kid says, what if red flag laws were just a family member or healthcare professional does a 24-hour watch for X amount of months, all weapons required to be locked? I think it's shit, because I'm completely, totally, utterly, and absolutely against red flag laws in any form. They violate your due process rights. They violate Fourth Amendment, searches and seizures, and they just plain suck. Let's see. Defense Dad's like, what do you mean? People use clickbait? Yeah, I know, right? Artak, how you doing? See those cool little Pooper 8 emojis that he's got there? You too can have them if you click the join button below. Become a channel member. Just saying. Let's see. There is some movement on the ATF's push to redefine what constitutes a firearm. Their proposed rulemaking is posted for public comment. This is from May 21st, today, from Bearing Arms. ATF's proposed rule on firearms now open for public comment. 2 weeks after the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, he put an AFT. That's funny, because it's supposed to be Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, ATF, but he has an Alcohol, Firearms, Tobacco. That is so funny.
Like Sniffy Joe did, right?
Yeah.
From here on out, it's the AFT, man. Yeah. You down with AFT? Yeah, you know me.
Oh, Squib, you dug
into down with AFT?
You dug into the way back for that one. Holy cow, brother. Anyhow, Since the ATF has sent out a press release touting its proposed rule to dramatically expand the definition of what constitutes a firearm under federal law, the proposal has officially been published in the Federal Register. That means the 90-day public comment period is now open, and gun owners, along with their anti-gun counterparts, can weigh in on the proposed changes until August 19th. The ATF summary of the proposed rule gives some indication of its scope and sweep. The Department of Justice proposes amending Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives regulations to provide new regulatory definitions of firearm frame or receiver and frame or receiver because the current regulations fail to capture the full meaning of those terms. The department also proposes amending ATF's definition of firearm and gunsmith to clarify the meaning of those terms and to provide definitions of terms such as complete weapon, complete muffler or silencer device, privately made firearm, and readily for purposes of clarity given advancements in firearms technology. 3D printing. Further, the department proposes amendments to ATF's regulations on marking and record keeping that are necessary to implement these new or amended definitions. These aren't minor technical changes, and the ATF's attempted justification to redefine the terms frame or receiver illustrates why the agency never attempted to make these changes before now. As the ATF says in the proposed rule published today, although the new definition would more broadly define the term frame or receiver than the current definition, it is not intended to alter any prior determinations by ATF of what it considers the frame or receiver of a particular split modular weapon. ATF would also continue to consider the same factors when classifying firearms. In other words, ATF wants to expand the definition of a frame or receiver. It also doesn't want to go back on 50 years' worth of prior determinations. In essence, the agency wants to have it both ways, requiring manufacturers to rely on both the new proposed definitions as well as adhering to the previous determinations published by the agency since the Gun Control Act of 1968 took effect. The proposed rule repeatedly talks about the flexibility of their new proposed definitions of firearm frame or receiver, firearm, muffler, or silencer device. That flexibility is designed to benefit the ATF, not firearms manufacturers, by casting as broad a net as possible over the manufacturing process. Even incomplete frames and receivers could be considered completed under the definition proposed by the ATF, and the agency's vague definitions don't provide clear-cut guidance to make these firearms or firearm parts, to those making these firearms or firearm parts. This third supplement would define frame or receiver to include, in the case of a frame or receiver that is partially complete, disassembled, or inoperable, a frame or receiver that has reached a stage of manufacture where it may readily be completed, assembled, converted, or restored to a functional state. To determine this status, the director may consider any available instructions, guides, templates, jigs, equipment, tools, or marketing materials. For clarification, partially complete for purposes of this definition means a forging, casting, printing, extrusion, machined body, or similar article that has reached a stage in manufacture where it is clearly identifiable as an unfinished component part of a weapon. In other words, an incomplete receiver could be considered a firearm under this proposed rule based on a number of other factors beyond the gun part itself, as opposed to a simple definition of an incomplete receiver is determined to be a firearm when it is X% completed. The ATF is trying to give itself as much wiggle room as possible at the expense of clarity to the firearms industry and anyone hoping to build their own firearm. Remember, any violation of the vague standards proposed by the ATF could result in federal charges or sanctions against manufacturers and DIY gun makers, which is why the industry has been asking for clear-cut standards that are easy to follow. That's not what the ATF delivered with this new proposed rule. It's going to take some time for industry officials and attorneys with Second Amendment organizations to pore over the fine print of the ATF's new proposal, but we'll be talking with those within the firearms industry as well as 2A organizations about the devil in the details in the days ahead to further identify the issues and problems within the new proposed rule to help gun owners with their objections when submitting their public comments. So, the ATF has issued their proposed rule. Let me see. Do I have that? No, I don't have it. Let me go here to the Federal Register, and I will drop this in the chat so that you guys can go to it. Now, I would highly encourage everyone to go leave a comment. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say this. I'm not just going to encourage you. I'm going to tell you, go leave a comment. If you're listening to this, if you care enough about the Second Amendment to listen to this dumpster fire, if you're hearing my voice on this, you need to go and leave a comment on this. Be professional. Be polite. Do not make threats. Do not put a bunch of cussing in it. Do not be, "'Cause you ain't take my gun, God damn it." You know, act like you have some sense. I know for some of us that's going to be difficult, me included. But be professional. Leave 4 or 5 or 6 of them. Leave one a day. You know, I would encourage you to not use a form letter. That's lazy, and they don't care about those. Leave individual comments. Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but what are your rights worth? Are you just going to be Squib's Cheeto man, or are you going to actually get off your ass and do something? What do you guys think?
Can I make an irresponsible prediction?
Sure. What? Yeah. Go ahead.
After everything's in, a few weeks or months later, they'll have a second period where you can put in your comments. And during both times, we're going to have the same crowd with the bump stock comments that screwed it up. The same people doing exactly what you said not to do. Swearing, making threats, screaming shall not be infringed, talking about all kinds of stuff, using form letters, not being professional. There was a study done after the bump stock thing, and quite a majority of Pro 2A comments were exactly what you said. And if you think that goes a long way, it doesn't. It doesn't. That might be your right as an American to say that, but these are people that don't like you. And all you're doing is playing into exactly what they think of you. See, they're just a bunch of angry yokels. All right. You can burn down Portland and it's a peaceful protest, but you can have a peaceful rally in Washington, D.C., and it's an insurrection. That's the mentality of the people that you're dealing with. So I think people have forgotten that. They were just too bitter over losing their piece of plastic, and they weren't paying attention to the fact that it was by a reputable source put out there about how many of the Pro 2A comments were actually, threatening, or they were incoherent, or they weren't effective because, for lack of a better term, they weren't professional.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's likely to happen this time around too. That's why I said what I said, to try to urge people not to do that kind of thing, because that just does more harm than good. But there will be a ton of people doing that shit because, honestly speaking, people are stupid. As a general rule. Not you guys. Y'all are all right. You can't be stupid and watch this show. And although maybe you will be by the time we're done. Who knows? Watching this show might make you drop a few IQ points. It's hard to say. Ben Frank 15 said, when I raised my right hand over 10 years ago, that oath didn't expire. Good. All right, folks. Next up, we got little Marco Rubio showing his colors again. This is from The Gun Writer by Lee Williams from May 20th. Senator Marco Rubio admits he's a Second Amendment butter. Senior senator from Florida tells a reader that he supports the Second Amendment, but at 5 feet 10 inches, Senator Marco Rubio is the same height as Senator Dianne Feinstein. But that's not all the two have in common. Neither Rubio nor Feinstein support the Second Amendment. While Feinstein is open and upfront about her anti-rights passion, Rubio is riding the fence. Several bills that he's introduced clearly infringe upon the Second Amendment, but he still tries to hide his anti-rights zealotry in communications with constituents. A reader recently reached out to Rubio after reading this story. Senator Rubio's red flag bill would allow temporary firearm confiscation and delay due process. I emailed him a while ago about his red flag bill he sponsored after you taught me about it and telling him it violated several amendments, and to my dismay, this was the response I received. She said in an email. I'm not publishing her name. She noted that Rubio's reply was vague and that he was not specifically addressing the issues about his bill's violation of due process and our other amendments, as opposed to him saying that our communities lack the law enforcement resources. Politicians have form letters for irate constituents. I have no doubt our reader received one of Rubio's letters designed to appease an angry Second Amendment supporter. I'm guessing his staff sends out a lot of them, especially since he introduced the federal red flag bill. I hold the fundamental belief that the Second Amendment should not be altered, Rubio's email states. While I have always supported the right of law-abiding Americans to bear arms to protect themselves and their families, I am committed to working with my colleagues in the Senate to create a more effective system to prevent senseless gun violence without unnecessarily infringing on the rights guaranteed by the Second Amendment. There are so many things wrong with that entire paragraph that it just ain't funny, folks. But I digress from the article. Getting back to the article, two things leap out of that statement. First, senseless gun violence is a Bloomberg talking point, which is used by demanding moms, Everytown, and The Trace. Second, Rubio hopes to create a more effective system without unnecessarily infringing on the rights guaranteed by the Second Amendment. I guess that means the senator is willing to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights, but only when he believes it's necessary. Bunkum, that is. And of course, there's a plug for his federal red flag bill. We currently lack the tools for law enforcement or families to take away guns from someone in their community they know is a danger to themselves or others. I'm working to change this by incentivizing states to enact extreme violence protection orders, sometimes referred to as red flag laws, the email states. Rubio's bill, Senate 292, Extreme Risk Protection Order and Violence Prevention Act of 2021, would lure states into creating their own extreme risk protection orders like we have here in Florida by offering them federal grants to get started. You could be paying for gun confiscations. That's your taxpayer dollars at work. The bill allows the petitioner, a law enforcement officer, family member, household member, someone who has a child with the gun owner, a current or former boyfriend, girlfriend, or anyone who lived with the gun owner in the past year, to tell the court that the gun owner poses a significant danger of causing personal injury to himself or herself or others. And the worst part? The gun owner has no right to attend this hearing and, therefore, no ability to defend themselves. The legal standard is clear and convincing evidence that you'll become a threat in the near future. And he places the senator's email below. I'm not going to go through and read all that, but what I shall do is drop a link in the chat. So if you guys want to go read this, which I heartily encourage you to do your own due diligence, do your own research. Don't just take my word for it. Go check it out. Jacob Ayers, y'all see that the Texas legislature finally agreed in conference committee to HB 1927, so it just needs a final vote and it's on the governor's desk? No, I did not see that. That is awesome. Good for Texas. I knew Clover was live earlier. That's probably what that was about, I expect. So let's see, what else do we got in the chat? The ATF is racist. They profile out of hate and will go after smokers, drinkers, and shooters. Yes. Rubio is a flip-flopping rhino. The only thing that will stop the government from taking your stuff is using your stuff, or the fear that you will use your stuff. That's why they want to take it. Eolsha says, interesting article. Looks like they're trying to classify gun parts. If an illegal gun shipment had guns broken down in separate crates, how would the parts be classified? Yeah, don't know. That's part of this. You know, to be fair, I just came across that today as I was doing a little bit of last minute show prep, so I have not had a chance to read the proposed rule. So I can't really speak on that yet. I'm going to give it a read here tonight and be able to more intelligently discuss it later. But I felt that I wanted to get that article out to everybody so that you know, and you have a chance, that's why I put the link out there, to go read this and leave a comment. So yes, please, everybody should go do that.
Wait, you don't want to report on something you know nothing about, like the mainstream media does all the time?
Well, you know, I don't get paid big bucks to lie like they do. If they were paying me big bucks to make shit up, hey, I wouldn't be sitting in my basement doing this show. I'd be in a studio. Nah, I'm not gonna, I won't sell out like that. Jesus. What's our next topico?
So I guess your helicopter isn't going to take sniper fire flying over Baghdad?
No, sir, it will not. It absolutely will not. That's my helicopter. Because my ass is broke. Jason Stewart says, if AR pistols were made in Mexico, the Dems would help carry them in. Jacob Ayers asks, how's Ohio doing in terms of constitutional carry? Is it like Florida where rhinos are stonewalling it? Yeah, pretty much. There's always a little bit of progress, but there's some resistance too. We have some fake conservatives who are holding this whole thing up. Yeah. You know, like DeWine being one of them. His opposition to it is of note. Hopefully his ass gets primaried out and we don't have to deal with him anymore. That would be great. Next up is this piece from Ammoland. Anti-gun Brit John Oliver exemplifies self-serving dual citizen oxymoron, by David Kodria from May 18th. Pardon me. There it goes. That's what you get for being an amateur hack. Drinking carbonated beverages. But, you know, I got to have my Rip It energy fuel so I can channel my inner Ric Flair, right?
That or your inner roll call.
Well, if I didn't do something, I'd be more like Droopy Dog here, because I'm whooped today. Anyhow, last week tonight, John Oliver rips gun laws that exalt a white person's fear over a black person's life. A Monday Deadline Hollywood promo piece masked as objective news claimed. The laws in question are commonly referred to as Stand Your Ground, and per the woke knee-jerk lynch mob congregating in the comments section, anyone who questions the accusation is also a racist. The Stand Your Ground law was infamously used in the 2012 George Zimmerman case, in which a community watch shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, the report declares. Zimmerman was successfully exonerated of wrongdoing after lawyers used Stand Your Ground in his defense. I haven't read any more of this article yet, and I can tell you right now, this John Oliver guy is completely full of bullshit, because none of what he just said is true. There's just one problem. Okay, well, apparently Mr. Kodri agrees with me. There's just one problem. That's not true. Zimmerman's lawyer argued basic self-defense law that would have been similar in just about every state in the nation. A report by ABC News, hardly a champion of the right of the people to keep and bear arms, was honest enough to make known, further calling out many, including legal commentators who should know better, repeatedly citing the statute as a crucial issue. So aside from lazy reporting and an unwillingness to challenge its own confirmation bias, what's Deadline Hollywood's excuse? As an aside, don't expect British import Oliver to ever tell his viewers that blacks benefit the most from stand your ground laws. Per economist and author John Lott, blacks may make up just 16.6% of Florida's population, but they account for over 31% of the state's defendants invoking a stand your ground defense. Black defendants who invoke this statute to justify their actions are acquitted 8% more frequently than whites who use the same defense. What? That can't be right. That doesn't fit the agenda. Mr. Lott's just a racist liar. Oliver is a typical example of a foreign national who comes to this country to exploit the benefits of its economy while subverting the very freedom that allowed the economy to grow into an attractant for the rest of the world. Another is comedian, quote-unquote, Samantha Bee, a Canadian import reaping personal rewards from starring in shows like Full Frontal Wants to Take Your Guns. So much for the lie that no one is talking about doing that. A common gun owner reaction to both Oliver and Bee. If they don't like it here, why don't they go back to where they came from? The answer you'll get back? Because they became American citizens. Kind of, but they hedged their bets. Bee became a U.S. citizen in 2014 while retaining her Canadian citizenship, a speakers bureau offering to send her to live events for $100,000 to $200,000 reveals. And Oliver, a dual citizen, is now the proud holder of 2 passports, like Jason Bourne, the UK's Independent recounted. Dual nationals owe allegiance to both the United States and the foreign country. The State Department Travel Advisory notes, it is important to note the problems attendant to dual nationality. Claims of other countries upon U.S. dual nationals often place them in situations where their obligations to one country are in conflict with the laws of the other. Per Kurzban's immigration law sourcebook, the U.S. government has generally looked with disfavor on United States citizens maintaining dual nationality. Rogers v. Bellet, Congress has an appropriate concern with problems attendant to dual nationality. Kennedy v. Mendoza-Martinez, we have recognized the entanglements which may stem from dual allegiances. Kawakita v. U.S., one who has a dual nationality will be subject to claims from both nations, claims which at times may be competing and conflicting. Dual allegiances violate the naturalization oath of allegiance to the United States of America, which clearly states, I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. Note the non-combatant pledge. An exclusion was created for the requirement to serve and or bear arms on behalf of the United States during the Obama administration, meaning new citizens can opt out of defending the country. They also can affirm instead of swear, skip the God part, and some are given a pass on the oath altogether because they don't understand it due to medical conditions, which make it fair to wonder why it's in anyone's interest to make them eligible to vote. Democrats. One of the goals of the globalists is to make everyone believe we are citizens of the world, not citizens of a particular country, the late conservative leader Phyllis Schlafly warned almost 20 years ago. We are also beginning to hear more frequently about dual citizenship, but that phrase is an oxymoron. One cannot truly be a citizen of 2 countries because ultimately loyalty cannot be divided. Congress should put an end to this dangerous notion and tighten up on the law on what constitutes evidence that a naturalized U.S. citizen intends to retain or reinstate his loyalty to a foreign country, she declared. Don't look for them to do that with Democrats or cheap labor Republicans in charge. Their goal is to turn the pathway to citizenship into a superhighway. Until things do change, foreign nationals intent on undermining our rights while they profit, foreign-born ingrates like Oliver and B, are living perversions of how John F. Kennedy, a president who understood the Second Amendment, urged Americans to live. Ask not what we can do for your country. Ask what your country can do for us. So, John Oliver and Samantha Bee lying like hell, but that's okay. We know that there are media elites, and us peasants just simply can't understand what they're trying to tell us. Jacob Ayers says, John Oliver has always been full of shit. Look at his monologue on Israel and Hamas this week. Billy the cab driver says, legally obtained personal property which is protected by the Second Amendment is not subject to confiscation. Period. Nope, it sure shouldn't be. Not in the slightest. Here is a piece from the NRA. Something that you folks in Illinois have to watch for. Gun seizure bill resurrected, passes House from May 13th. Yesterday, House Bill 1092 to expand Illinois' program of suspending Second Amendment rights without due process was resurrected after it previously had been re-referred to the House Rules Committee. The House then voted 69 to 43 to pass it. HB 1092 will now go to the Senate for further consideration. Please contact your state senator and ask them to oppose HB 1092. Excuse me. House Amendment 1 to House Bill 1092 widens the definition of family members who can petition for an order that will cause an individual to have their constitutional rights suspended and their property seized. These firearm restraining orders are issued following baseless accusations and without a hearing or other opportunity for the respondent to be heard in court. This bill also expands the items to be seized to include ammunition as well as firearm parts. The law attacking the right to due process should be repealed, not expanded. A person subject to a suspension of a constitutional right should be entitled to high evidentiary standards, an opportunity to be heard, and the right to face his or her accusers. Civil liberties advocates from across this political spectrum have expressed concerns about these red flag schemes and how the procedure may lead to abuses of the process due to insufficient due process protections. Again, please contact your Illinois state senator and ask them to oppose HB 1092. Let's see, what's my next up? Here's some good news. This is a piece from Breitbart. Henry McMaster signs bill to make South Carolina 46th open carry state. This is from May 20th. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster signed legislation earlier this week to allow concealed carry permit holders to carry their handguns openly if they so choose. Jurist.org noted McMaster's signature on H. 3094 means South Carolina will become the 46th open carry state when the law takes effect on August 16, 2021. Upon signing the bill, McMaster tweeted, "I will proudly support any legislation that protects or enhances a South Carolinians' ability to exercise their Second Amendment rights." He pointed out that, in addition to legalizing the permitted open carry of handguns, the new law also eliminates the $50 permit fee for a concealed weapons permit. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed open carry into law on June 13, 2015. In the lead up to the signing of the bill, Abbott said, "Let me briefly follow up on a word I mentioned a moment ago, liberty. In a single word, it encapsulates what the country stands for, what Texas symbolizes. I will expand liberty in Texas by signing a law that makes Texas the 45th state to allow open carry." Why would they put all that Texas crap, no offense Texans, into an article about South Carolina? I mean, do they really need a word count that bad? Come on, man. So that's it. That's what I have for my
Can I make a
Go right
comment
ahead.
about the South Carolina thing?
Go right ahead. That's why you're here, Squid.
Thank you. All right. You can open carry in South Carolina if you have a concealed carry permit.
Apparently.
Then that's not open carry. Night Strike's been running his mouth for a freaking week or 2 weeks about this being the greatest thing. If you need a permit to open carry, that's not open carry. That's a load of shit.
I agree. You shouldn't have. First off, you shouldn't have to have a permit to carry any damn thing, but open carry shouldn't be regulated at all. That's one thing Ohio got right from the very beginning. We've been able to open carry anywhere, anytime, unless the property owner says get out. Because why not?
So if somebody from South Carolina, which is not the better of the two Carolinas, but it is still a nice place. If somebody from South Carolina wants to run their mouth that they've got open carry now, no, you don't. You still need a permit. You still need a permit. So it's, I don't know, semantics or virtue signaling or whatever. It's just like we're now a 2A sanctuary city or county or state. Really? Can you go down the street and buy a machine gun at your local FFL without a tax stamp or a 4473 or a NICS check? No? Then you're not a sanctuary. You're not a 2A sanctuary state, city, or county.
On the other hand, it is a step in the right direction. It is that, half a yard down the field, which is a good thing. It did remove the $50 fee from getting a concealed carry permit, so that's a good thing. But no, it certainly is not a perfect solution to it. But it is progress, and those who have listened to the show for a while will know that I believe in accepting what progress you can get right now and then working for more later. So
I will agree to that. It is, I like your football analogy there. I do agree. It is a step in the right direction, and something is better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. If I was living in South Carolina, I would probably be one of these people making a big deal out of it because it's been something maybe I've wanted for a long time. But from another point of view, it's a bittersweet victory.
Yeah,
maybe, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. You are correct, or I do agree with you, I should say.
That's how we got to the point where we're at now in Ohio, because man, our original concealed carry law sucked. It's still far from perfect, but it's way better than it used to be because they accepted the progress that they could get right then and then kept fighting for more and kept getting more. Kind of like what the antis do. So it's just using that tactic against them. But we've talked about that like a billion times before. But it is
talking about the how the antis have used the incremental way of doing things, to their advantage. They've also done the judge shopping, thing before as well. Trying, if you can't get one to rule your way, you just keep going down the line until you do.
Yep.
Amazing how loud they scream when that same thing gets used on them. This happened before.
Yeah, kidding.
And you're right about how that does. For example, what they'll do is this law will be in effect, say, for 5-10 years, maybe. And somebody will say, we've had this for 10 years and crime hasn't gone up. We've had this for 10 years and we haven't seen a bunch of brandishing, or it's not the Wild West or any of this other stuff. So maybe at this point we should go for constitutional carry.
Yeah,
and this
that's
is
how
the
it
way
happens.
you do. Yeah, and that's how that is. And I like the fact that you talked. Your analogy was how the concealed carry laws changed in Ohio, because you got me thinking about how they changed here. We went from may issue to shall issue, and then from shall issue to shall issue with very few restrictions. And I think that we're poised for constitutional carry. The way the environment is here, the political environment is here, we're going to need a neighboring state to have it in order. So if you or Indiana get it, then we're in the perfect position to get it because we've progressed through that way. So if this is how South Carolina does a stepping stone, I congratulate you and I support that. But if you're just going to make it sound like it's this major victory, not yet. You're almost there.
Yep. Well, I think not using the tactics that the anti-gunners have used successfully against them is just downright stupid. Speaking of downright stupid.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
First up in Moron of the Week, this is a piece from Breitbart from May 13th. Judge rules deputies fired for Parkland shooting in action should be reinstated. Broward Circuit Judge Keithan Frink ruled Thursday that two Broward County Sheriff's deputies who were fired for inaction during the February 14, 2018 Parkland High School shooting should be reinstated. NBC Miami reports that Frink also ruled the deputies Brian Miller and Joshua Stambaugh should receive back pay. The Sun-Sentinel noted Frink did not address the accusations that Miller and Stambaugh had failed to act during the shooting. Rather, he stressed that the Broward County Sheriff's Office had waited too long to fire the deputies. The Sentinel points out Florida gives police agencies 180 days to investigate and discipline officers. The Sheriff's Department allegedly took longer than that in the case of Miller. And the Associated Press indicated that Broward Sheriff Gregory Toney allegedly acted 13 days too late when he fired Deputy Stambaugh. So, stupid sheriff, you are the first contestant.
You know, I would have charged each one of them with a count of manslaughter for every death that occurred because they weren't doing their job.
Yep.
I mean, you know, you got somebody using a legal restraining hold on somebody who was going to code out from their own choice to consume so many illegal drugs, get sent up the river, and these guys get a slap on the wrist and then possibly reinstated?
Because the sheriff failed to act on their disciplinary policy in the allotted time.
A technicality.
Yep.
But see,
and that's on the sheriff. I was at first gonna put this on the judge, but it's not. He's following what the law is. He has no choice. It was the sheriff who failed to ensure that discipline was done within his timelines laid out by their own policy. That's a fucking moron.
The sheriff, though, might have done that intentionally to create a technicality.
Maybe. But still, the two deputies, though, they couldn't get reinstated if they were incarcerated, and that's where they should be. Yeah, but they're not. Next up, we go from not acting fast enough to get rid of the trash to firing somebody who shouldn't have been fired. This is from Fox News. Virginia police lieutenant fired for donating to Kyle Rittenhouse fundraiser seeking due process. Lieutenant William Kelly was fired just days after news reports revealed he had donated anonymously to Kyle Rittenhouse. The Virginia police lieutenant, who was fired from the department in April after anonymously donating to a fundraiser to benefit Kyle Rittenhouse, said his ousting came in only a matter of days, despite that the process typically takes months. Norfolk Police Lieutenant William Kelly was only roughly 10 months from being a 20-year veteran of the department, at which point he would have been eligible to have received his retirement savings without a penalty. He was fired from Norfolk Police Department in April when he was suddenly left desperate to find affordable health insurance for himself, his wife, who is sick with cancer, and their 3 kids. I thought I was a free man in America, expressing his personal opinion to somebody, giving some words of encouragement, and making a simple donation, Kelly said during a Friday morning interview with Fox News. No, not in Cancer Culture 2021, you're not. Rittenhouse faces a handful of criminal charges, such as murder and being in possession of a firearm as a minor, after he was accused of fatally shooting 2 people and wounding a third during riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He has said he fired his weapon while defending himself, and video clearly shows that he did. Kelly, 42, said he donated to a Give Send Go account to benefit Rittenhouse, now 18, at the end of summer 2020. He registered an account using his official police department email, but said his donation was anonymous. Well, there's your problem right there. A message included with the donation stated, "God bless, thank you for your courage, keep your head up. You've done nothing wrong. Every rank and file police officer supports you. Don't be discouraged by actions of the political class of law enforcement leadership." Kelly did not place the donation during work hours, he said. He didn't hear anything about the contribution for months until the morning of Friday, April 16th. I was getting ready for work one morning and I got a phone call from a fellow police officer who was working at the central desk. His colleague was calling about a report released that morning by The Guardian, which detailed how a data breach revealed how Kelly, who was a sergeant at the time, was among police officials who had donated to Rittenhouse's fund. I only read the portion that was in relation to me, and I immediately called my boss, let him know what had happened, Kelly said. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, he told Fox News. I didn't think that anything I said was egregious. I didn't think that my opinion was outside the realm of normal public discourse, so I honestly did not think it was going to be a big deal. Kelly said he understood why he shouldn't have used his work email address, but said using the city-issued email address was a very common practice among police department personnel. Later that Friday, he was interviewed by higher-ranking police officials and provided statements to the Internal Affairs Division, to which Kelly had been assigned. I remember asking before we began the statement what I was being investigated for, and they told me that it was going to be for using a city email account for personal business. And then later on, they said it could possibly be something about conduct unbecoming, he said. Being in internal affairs, as a sergeant and as a lieutenant, I knew that these weren't things that ended people's careers. By midday, he was transferred from the Internal Affairs to the 3rd Patrol Division. I was told they had to look out for the department. I didn't object to being transferred. I understand that public perception is very important in the 21st century, and public trust is very important. Kelly ran into Norfolk Police Chief Larry Boone at work on Friday after the department's top cop had been made aware of the matter. He was talking with the city manager on the sidewalk. I greeted him. He called me over, and he just put his hands on my shoulder and didn't say anything for a while, Kelly recalled. And then he kind of patted my shoulder with his hand and said, "Bad. We'll talk later." Kelly began hearing whispers over that weekend about how he might be terminated on Monday. He called Boone sometime between Saturday and Sunday, but the call was sent to voicemail, he said. I texted him. I told him I just wanted to know if I was going to be fired. I told him that if I was going to be fired, I'd like to know if it's going to be immediate or if it's going to be something that affords me the chance to get health insurance. I've got family members with some severe illnesses, he continued. Kelly's wife is undergoing treatment for cancer. The chief never answered Kelly's messages or returned his call. By that Monday, Kelly was out of a job. Kelly said he anticipated the repercussions but didn't expect them to reach the level of termination, or to come as swiftly as they did. Being in internal affairs for so long as a sergeant and then again coming back as a lieutenant, I knew that internal affairs investigations take months and months and months, sometimes over a year, he said. I know that it takes months and months to go through the administrative process of scrutiny by different departments. He further described it as a long, drawn-out process. His attorney, Andrew Protogaru, I don't know how the hell to say that, a former city council member who has represented other officers in union-related legal matters, added that typical consequences would have been, at worst, a letter of reprimand. So I certainly was not expecting to be fired, Kelly continued. Certainly was not expecting to be fired within 2 working days of discovering the donation. The police department did not respond to Fox News' request seeking comment and additional information regarding the circumstances surrounding Kelly's dismissal. A spokesperson for the city manager's office declined to comment. So, this poor guy did what I've done. Made a donation to the kid's defense. Got fired for it. So, Chief Boone, the chump chief, you are the second contestant on Moron of the Week. Next up, mayor vowed to take illegal guns off the street. Police just found one in her home. From May 20th, 2021 by Cam Edwards. Rochester, New York Mayor Lovely Warren is a typical Democrat politician when it comes to gun control. She's complained about the number of illegal guns on the streets of the city, supported the state's draconian gun control laws, and even announced a gun buyback earlier this week, claiming once again that getting guns off our streets must be a priority. That's why I'm glad our police department is partnering with the Attorney General's office and our churches to host a gun buyback event next week. I know Chief Harriet Sullivan and her team are working with the partners in law enforcement to stop the flow of illegal guns into our city. We must continue working together with our citizens to take these guns off our streets so that our residents can feel safe in their neighborhoods and live the lives they deserve. Turns out Warren should have been more concerned about illegally possessed guns in her own home. On Wednesday, the New York State Police raided the home that Warren shares with her husband, Timothy Grandison, and allegedly discovered him to be in possession of 31 grams of cocaine as well as a firearm, which is a no-no since Grandison was convicted of armed robbery 24 years ago. According to the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, Grandison was one of the 7 people arrested as part of an ongoing drug investigation that's been going on for months. New York State Police stopped Grandison's vehicle Wednesday afternoon on Birch Crescent in Rochester, and cocaine was found inside his car, said New York State Police Major Barry Chase. On Wednesday evening, New York State Police conducted a search at the home that Warren and Grandison share at 93 Woodman Park. New York State Police on Wednesday and Thursday executed search warrants at 7 locations within city limits, including Mayor Warren's home. More than 2 kilos of powder and crack cocaine were recovered, as were 3 firearms and a semi-automatic rifle, and more than $100,000 cash, said Dorley. 1 unregistered handgun, a loaded magazine, and the semi-automatic rifle were recovered from the mayor's house, New York State Police Major Barry Chase said. It's not yet clear if the rifle is illegal. For the moment, the only gun charge that Grandison faces is possession of an unregistered firearm, though this felony conviction back in the 1990s makes him ineligible to legally own a firearm, regardless of whether or not it's registered with the state of New York, as required under the terms of the state's draconian SAFE Act. During a court hearing on Thursday, Grandison pleaded not guilty to the drug and gun charges, and so far his wife has been silent about his arrest and the guns found in the couple's home. In the past, however, Warren's been a vocal supporter of the SAFE Act and other restrictions on legal gun owners in the state, even as she's sought to cut the Rochester Police Department's budget amidst a sharp increase in violent crime in the city. Well, yeah, she's got to help her friends out. Last August, she even lauded the Rochester PD for confiscating hundreds of guns and vowed to keep the pressure against those possessing them illegally. Oh, what a hypocrite! But we can't legislate morality, Warren said. We legislate consequences. So, the thing is, we're focusing on bringing these people to justice that are picking up these weapons, but also getting the weapons off the street. And apparently, into her bedroom closet. So, Mental Mare, you are contestant number 3 in Moron of the Week. And last,
they released her husband without any bond on his own recognizance.
Wow.
Talk about getting favors for who you're sleeping with.
Yeah, no kidding. It's good to be dicking down the mayor, apparently. Speaking of dicking down, the last contestant on Moron of the Week, back in his honorary spot, is Uncle Touchy himself, the sniffer-in-chief, Joe Biden. Just, for being Joe Biden. So who do you guys like? Squib, who do you like? Stupid Sheriff, Chump Chief, Mental Mayor, or Uncle Touchy?
Going with Mayor Love.
Oh yeah. How about you, Pickle?
The idiot that fired the cop for donating to Rittenhouse.
So far, folks, we got one from Chump Chief and Mental Mayor. You guys tell me out there in the chat, who do you like? Stupid Sheriff, Chump Chief, Mental Mayor, or Uncle Touchy? Vanessa Kitty says, in a review done here, most every gun crime felony is dropped before prosecution or even the cases they settle. Yeah, no kidding. Ah, New York, the home of crackheads and the most corrupt politicians in our country.
Yeah, Chicago might, fight for that title sometimes.
Yeah, right. Come on, folks, give me some votes. Who's the moron of the week? Jacob Ayers says that dumbass mayor. Artak votes for Uncle Touchy. Who else we got? Chump Chief says Jason Stewart. Buck says Mayor Love. So far, we got 2 for Chump Chief, 3 for Mental Mayor, and 1 for Uncle Touchy. Well, Billy, I tried not to make it easy on y'all. I want to make it difficult. Says these moron of the week contestants are of a manure pit mentality. How to pick? I know, right? I guess you got to decide which turd is the stinkiest.
Good analogy.
By the way, for those wondering, I'm eating some freeze-dried mixed fruit. It's wonderful. Particularly the mulberries. Really good. So far, we got 2 for Chump Chief, 3 for Mental Mayor, and 1 for Uncle Touchy. Anybody else want to weigh in on this incredibly important subject? Oh, M. Gabriel says the mayor. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. Mental Mayor is the moron of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
And that, folks, brings us to our final segment, which is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts.
Yay!
Self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It is where I'm reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to keep the bad guy from making him do the same. First up, from WISTV.com. 1 dead after apartment complex shooting. This is from May 12th. Columbia, South Carolina. 1 man is dead following a shooting at the Capri Apartments on East Chapel Drive, according to the Columbia Police Department. The incident occurred shortly after 11:30 p.m. on May 11th. According to reports, the suspect assaulted the victim while armed with a gun following an argument. The victim's brother witnessed the assault, pushed his brother out of the way, and fatally shot the suspect. After the shooting, the victims immediately called 911 and cooperated with investigators. An investigation determined that the shooting was self-defense and the suspect was the aggressor. No charges will be filed. The Richland County Coroner's Office is assisting CPD with this case. Next up, from 5newsonline.com, Fort Smith shooting leaves 2 people dead. Witnesses at the scene say a man tried to lure neighbors outside of their apartments before he shot and killed 87-year-old Lois Hicks. Police are investigating a shooting that took place at an apartment complex in the 3500 block of South 74th Street in Fort Smith Saturday. Officers responded to gunshots at around 7:23 a.m. Once on scene, they found 2 bodies. 1 body was found inside the apartment and 1 outside. The bodies have been identified as 87-year-old Lois Hicks and 26-year-old Zachary Arnold. Hicks was shot multiple times inside of her apartment by Arnold, who was armed with a semi-automatic rifle. Arnold continued to shoot his rifle at neighboring apartments. A resident at the apartments heard the gunshots and got a hunting rifle, which he used to shoot and kill Arnold. Neighbors who witnessed the shooting say Arnold was trying to persuade people to come outside their apartment buildings. He was yelling and screaming, "You guys get out here! Come out of here! Everybody get out of this building right now," says Janie Pugh, a resident of the apartment complex. Another resident, Amber Lane, says Lois Hicks and Arnold live in the same building. She says Hicks and another neighbor went outside to console Arnold. When they saw the gun, they ran back inside their apartments. There were 2 older women. Both had come out. One of them had ran back in, and the other one ran back in, but she didn't close her door. Then he walked in and did what he did, says Lane. Neighbors say Arnold could open fire on anyone in the apartment building, so they took cover while he continued to shoot into the residences. Some say they are grateful for the one neighbor who stepped in and put an end to the shooting. If he didn't do that, who knows how much worse it could have gotten, says Lane. The investigation is still underway, and more details will be released when appropriate and at the end of the investigation. Dixie Property Management released the following statement. We are terribly saddened by the incident which happened this morning. We are working diligently with police in any way we can. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families today. Next up, This is from Fox56.com. Alleged robber shot and killed during home invasion in Monroe County by Fox 56 Newsroom, Tuesday, May 18, 2021. East Stroudsburg, Monroe County. One man was shot and killed and another seriously injured after 5 of them attempted to burglarize a home in East Stroudsburg. Police say it happened around 5:45 p.m. Monday at a home on McKinley Way in Smithfield Township. During an attempted robbery, the victim, 26-year-old Tyheen Downs, fought his attackers and used a gun during the confrontation. A 23-year-old from New Jersey was shot and killed. His name has not yet been released by authorities. Another of the assailants, Unique K. Rainey, a 23-year-old from Scranton, was seriously injured, and 3 other known suspects, a 21-year-old from Scranton, a 19-year-old from East Stroudsburg, and another from Scranton, fled the scene. Police say this was an isolated incident and believe Downs was specifically targeted. And last but most certainly not least, from behind enemy lines, from The Truth About Guns, from May 15th. Hey, Dateslav Act MC says, keep fighting Chicago's mayor. $5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. California woman shoots machete-wielding burglar she found in her closet. Waking up to an armed intruder in your house would be any homeowner's worst nightmare. If you're a single mother with 2 young kids in the house, finding a man wielding a machete in your bedroom closet immediately kicks you into mama bear mode. That's what happened to a California woman who woke up to the sound of a man rummaging through her walk-in closet. The thief, Ocean Burger, his name, not a restaurant, was armed with a number of knives and a machete when the unnamed woman grabbed a handgun and confronted him. From KSBW.com. Investigators say Berger ignored the orders to leave, and when the homeowner fired several warning shots he allegedly advanced towards her, that's when the mother fired at the accused burglar, hitting him in the leg. And California law may be on her side. Warning shots are never a good idea and can even put you in legal jeopardy in many jurisdictions. In this case, they not only wasted perfectly good and expensive ammunition, but probably led Berger to believe that she wasn't serious about actually shooting him. After advancing on the woman, the round in his leg apparently convinced Berger that he was wrong. The good news is California actually has a castle doctrine law on the books. The woman had no duty to retreat and was legally justified in using deadly force to defend herself and her children. There is a presumption that favors the homeowner that they're presumed that the person is in imminent fear of either death or great bodily injury, said Ellen Campos, Assistant District Attorney for San Benito County. Investigators say they will not recommend any charges be filed against her. Ocean Burger is currently recovering from his wound in county jail. So there you had it, folks. Despite what the lamestream legacy media would have you think, good guys with guns stop bad guys with guns and machetes all the time.
I don't know what's funnier, the guy's name or the fact that he brought a machete to a gunfight. I mean,
kidding.
And you remember when you were a kid, you always thought there was a monster in the closet. Apparently, there really is.
And that gal's lucky because San Bernardino County, from what I know of it, because that's Southern California, I'm surprised. If it would have been a male shooter instead of a female, probably would have come out differently. But I would have expected them to try to file charges even if they wouldn't stick.
Well, I'm glad that she doesn't have to worry about that. That's pretty awesome. Speaking of pretty awesome, you guys out there in the chat watching this are pretty damn awesome. I want to thank you for being here. But first, I'd like to thank my esteemed panel and let them have an opportunity to plug their stuff and give us any final thoughts or words of wisdom. Pickle, do you have anything for us?
Just want to say thanks for the invite. I will be, producing content here again once things calm down a little bit for me. I've been working a lot more than normal recently, so my content has gone to 0 for the last 5 weeks. But I will be back. I'm not trying to quote Arnold on that one, but just appreciate you letting me on the show every week.
Hey, I appreciate you being here. Speaking of appreciating and being here, the irascible yet lovable Squibload, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
Nah, everybody have a good weekend.
And you do the same, sir. I want to say thank you to everybody for being out there and watching this. If you are going to be in Northeast Ohio on June 26th, I will be having a basic survival workshop. Go onto my website, budgetgunsandgear.com, find the training page, and you should be able to find the basic survival workshop page. There will be a class description and a gear list of what you need to bring with you and a link to where you can sign up. I lowered the cost of it. I realized I was trying to charge a little bit too much more than the market would bear, so I shortened the class from 8 to 12 hours to 6 to 8, and I had cut that price considerably to reflect that. So go check that out. If you're going to be in Ohio on June 27th, I'm running a concealed carry class, and you can go to the same website and sign up for that. As I said, I will have a video dropping the next few days about the tactical response fighting pistol class. Be sure to be on the lookout for that one. And you know what, folks? Go leave a comment in the Federal Register about the ATF's BS. But don't just leave it there. Leave a lot of comments. Do one every day. Hey, nothing says you can't do it. And also, contact your Congress critters and elected representatives and let them know what you think. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, bicycle messengers, anything you have to do to let them know what you think. And never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll talk to you guys later.